Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Delighted to have your company on this Monday. We'll be looking back at the weekend's Scottish Premiership fixtures, the results from those games, getting your thoughts on it as well, reading out some of your opinions, and of course we'll be asking you to hit that subscribe button, join the football family there, and if you hit the bell as well, you'll get all the notifications of our unique video content too. Alan Ruff is with me alongside Alison McConnell. Delighted that the two of them are here to offer their opinion as well on all things football. There are a few other burning issues that I want to get your thoughts on as well, guys. We will hear from Ange Postecoglou, Sean Maloney, Robbie Nielsen, Jim Goodwin, Tam Courts and Thomas Tuchel. And we'll also be hearing from one of my old mates who's the commercial director at Hibernian. Greg McEwen is talking about some fantastic news for Hibs fans regarding that game against St Johnstone. And as ever on a Monday, I'm delighted that my old mucker Andrew Shiney will be joining us to talk about Aberdeen. Great day up there. I'd love to have been up to see Fergie walking out onto the Pittodrie turf once more and the reception he got. So we'll talk about the Dons as well, and we'll discuss why Andy Halliday is feeling so happy today as well. So, lots to talk about. First and foremost, Ruffy, the SFA have released a statement, of course, regarding the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and it goes as follows. The Scottish FA President Rod Petrie has written to his counterpart at the Ukrainian FA to send a message of support, friendship and unity. Football is inconsequential amid conflict, but we have conveyed the strong sense of solidarity communicated to us by Scotland fans and citizens in recent days. We remain in dialogue with UEFA and FIFA regarding our Men's World Cup playoff and Women's World Cup qualifier, and have offered to support our Ukrainian colleagues' preparations as best we can. Should the current circumstances continue, we will not sanction the nomination of a team to participate on our UEFA Regions Cup fixture against Russia, due to be played in August. This will remain our position should any other fixtures arise at any level of international football. So first and foremost, Ruffy, I say well done the SFA on that stance.
Yeah, it's good they've come out very quick, as other nations have as well. There's a stand out there that everybody's taking, which is quite right. Football is the back burner in international football anyway. But certainly, yeah, with everything that's happening just now at this moment in time, I think we have to be realistic and just support everybody that's in the turmoil.
Yeah, if anything, I'm looking at FIFA and I'm just wondering, Ruffy, they're not covering themselves in glory with this. I think sometimes you get organisations, big organisations, where money more often than not is the driving force, dragging their heels, trying to play that political game. Now, FIFA has just come out and said that they're about to suspend Russia. They haven't actually given us an official confirmation yet, but there's no doubt in my mind that they are waiting and seeking all the legal advice that they possibly can on this one. But quite simply, when you have a country that's been invaded, I think everybody should take a strong stand, show a lead, and FIFA should be out there saying, look, Russia, you are quite simply not going to be allowed to play in any of our competitions, because they came out with a statement late on Sunday night which just beggared belief. It was basically along the lines of that the initial measures would be home games in neutral territory, competing under the banner of the Football Union of Russia, and outlawing their flag and the anthem. I mean, honestly, is that a strong stance to take and show leadership? I don't think so, and I think they are under pressure now to really start to come out and say, okay, they're suspended from all competition.
Yeah, I think pressure will grow now. As I said, we've seen all the other countries coming out in favour of just not taking part at all and associated with Russia, and I think the pressure will mount as the day goes on and days go on, and I'm sure they'll come into line with everybody else. They have to come into line with everybody else because nobody will play them.
Yeah, well, that's a good point you make, Ruffy, because Russia were due to meet Poland in a World Cup playoff next month. Sweden and the Czech Republic would have played the winner of that for a place in Qatar, but all these countries, all three of them, have said that they are unwilling to play the matches, so well done to them. You can give us your view on that. FIFA, I think, haven't really covered themselves in glory. Okay, to domestic issues. Over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, some interesting games to talk about. Of course, the great thing about Scottish football is you always get fans going, they've dropped points in Easter Road. Celtic fans have been saying there's no danger Rangers are going to drop points against Motherwell. And I'm sure Rangers fans ahead of that game at Easter Road were saying, well, Sean Maloney used to play for Celtic, so Celtic will go there and win. But the joy of football and professional footballers, they give their all. And Hibs and Motherwell clearly hadn't read the script, Alison.
Yeah, you have to remember that these clubs have their own ambitions, that are completely independent of whatever Celtic and Rangers are busying themselves with at the top end of the table. I think Sean Maloney would have been delighted with the point that Hibs took yesterday as he goes about his own rebuilding process there. I thought it was a frustrating afternoon for Celtic. I think they've lost a spark. I think they've been off the boil really since that game at Fir Park, which followed the win over Rangers at the beginning of the month. I think a number of players that have been significant and contributed a lot over the course of this campaign look tired. I think they look leggy. I'm thinking of the likes of Tom Rogic, of Jota. I think they look off the boil, but I'm sure Rangers will be kicking themselves at the failure to take the win at Ibrox. You're 2-0 up at half time, go and put a bit of pressure on Celtic, because Celtic have got St Mirren on Wednesday night, and then they're at Livingston this weekend, and you know that's been a bit of a bogey team for them. So I think Rangers will lament the fact that they could have closed the gap to a point and really would have been breathing down Celtic's neck.
Yeah, I was at Easter Road, Ruffy. I'm glad Alison mentioned Rogic. I'd have hooked him at half time. Starfelt had a bad tackle on Nisbet. I know that Nisbet left in crutches. I mean, realistically, if you were looking at the game, Juranovic had a free kick, which was an easy save for Matt Macy. Then other than that, there was a kind of an Abada, Matt O'Reilly Stramash at the end, which was blocked, but it was eventually flagged for offside, so it wouldn't have counted anyway. Celtic just weren't at the races, and of course the manager comes in, Ruffy, and starts doing what I call the Martin O'Neill Gordon Strachan after-match assessment. He's watching a game that I think I'm not at.
Yeah, I've been saying that for weeks. Some of his after the game comments are beggars belief. I think he has deserved all the pats in the back for the change round of where the players that he's brought in and the style of play that they were playing. But he has to realise that, as Ali said there, it's all the teams have caught on to it now. Yeah. The surprise of the players who are coming in, they didn't know much about, and now they know the plan, they know the way they set up, they know the style of play. And like Hibs at the weekend, they just sat in and just said, well, we'll nullify all your strengths and then we'll try and hit you on the break. I think the best Celtic could have got out of that game would have been 1-0. I didn't see the chances that he was talking about. Yeah, they had a lot of possession, but they didn't really trouble Hibs at all.
I thought Hibs played well. I thought they were organised. I think they really responded to what Sean Maloney had asked of them. And, they had a lung-bursting run from Josh Doig, which almost produced a chance to get a goal. It hit the side netting, but it was a great run. I thought they played really well. As far as Celtic were concerned, inept at times. I didn't see anybody that looked as if they were at it. But the manager himself, when asked about this whole tit-for-tat race that's going on and whether they're paying attention or whatever, he still says Celtic are focused only on themselves.
I've said all along, whether we were 6 points behind or 3 points ahead, that we're just going to run our own race and keep doing what we've been doing to get us into this position. And, we're going to keep doing that till the end of the year. So ultimately, what other people assess again about the points and where we sit on the table, it doesn't make one bit of difference to sort of the way we're going about our things.
Yeah, so that was the manager's take on it. They're going to run their own race. As far as Hibs were concerned, full marks to them. A lot of positives from their display. The only downside was that midway through the first half, they lost Nisbet, on came Christian Doig, and there was a rare outing late on for Scott Allen, but the rest of them, they gave him absolutely everything.
Yeah, I think they were very organised. I think Celtic struggle in games such as that, where there's very little space, where teams are very compact, where they make life difficult for them. I think if Celtic don't open the scoring in the first 15 or 20 minutes, I think it tends to go quite flat as the longer the game goes on. I think you've seen it repeatedly this season. You saw it at St Mirren the last time they dropped points in December. I think you saw it at home against Dundee United, earlier in the campaign against Livingston too. I think they can struggle. I think it becomes very turgid in games like that. But I thought yesterday they looked bereft of ideas in the final third. I thought there was a lack of imagination, a lack of creativity, and I was baffled by the one substitution. I thought maybe there were a number of players on the bench that might have come on just to inject a bit of energy, maybe just lift the tempo a bit, just bring in something. I thought Matt O'Reilly did make a difference when he came on. But I think there's a few others. You look at James Forrest sitting on the bench, the experience that he brings. Ralston, who brings an energy on that right-hand side. I think there were changes that could have been made, and I think maybe that a few people were scratching their heads about that one.
Yeah, I thought Hibs deserved the point. I think if Celtic had scored the goal, I think a lot of Hibs fans would have been going home bemused because they applauded everybody. I'm glad to see that Drew Wright got a huge ovation when he was substituted for Hibs, Ruffy, because he really put in a shift and he was excellent in the game, in my opinion. As far as Hibs are concerned, I think the manager wants to see a similar display in every game.
We have to show that every game. We showed it against Hearts. We showed it again today. We showed it against Ross County as well at times. But we have to show it in every game. If we're going to succeed here, we have to show that level of desire not to get beat in every game, whether it's Celtic, Hearts, or any other team in this league. But I did love that sided performance. It showed a completely different side to what we always speak about.
Yeah, well done to Hibs getting the point. Celtic dropped 2 points, so everybody was casting their eye towards Ibrox. I think Rangers fans packed into that stadium expecting the gap to be reduced to only 1 point. But in the end, it didn't materialise because, quite simply, Rangers slipped up as well. There was lots of things to talk about in this one. Here's what Giovanni Van Bronckhorst had to say about the game itself. If we get a goal against us, not only Alan McGregor, it's very easy to say it's the fault of the goalkeeper. In the build-up, we didn't do tactically well. We passed to players we never passed to when we are building up in this way. It starts with the build-up. I think we defend as a team. As I said before, I think Alan is a good goalkeeper, a very experienced one. It's easy to put the blame on him because we conceded 2 goals. Well, I have to say, I read some of the social media from some Rangers camps, and I was gobsmacked that they were rounding on Alan McGregor. My God, he has saved them more time than I care to mention.
Yeah, I was surprised with it as well. Yeah, it was 2 bad goals. I think if you'd asked Alan, he could have done better at both of them. But that's the way of the world. You make mistakes and you move on. But I think there was more in that than him before it got to him.
Yeah.
There was more mistakes there. And Rangers should have had the game won out of sight in the first half.
Here's your favourite, Ruffy. Possession, Rangers, first half.
Oh, but not even possession. They should have been at least 4 up. If it hadn't been Liam Kelly and goals, some of the saves he was making were incredible. And at 2-0, my only worry was Ali had 3-1 in our prediction, and that's the way I thought this game was going. But obviously the second half, and again Rangers showed, when they're winning, they're great, but then they lose a goal and it's 2-1, and it comes a wee bit nervy, and the support get a wee bit nervy, and then it goes on and they get the second goal, and it's bad goals. Yeah. All credit to Rangers last week when they beat Borussia, but I thought the 2 goals they lost against Borussia were the same as the goals they lost against Motherwell. Yeah. Just poor defending. And they've done that before, but attacking wise, not a problem. I thought they should have won out of sight, but defensively, that last year we were talking about how hard it was to get a goal.
Yeah.
They were so strong at the back, you could hardly get a shot in it and it go. But this year they are leaking goals, and that would be there. The Celtic's problem is they can't put the ball in the back of the net. Rangers' problem is they're losing goals they weren't losing last year.
73% possession in the first half alone, Alison, shows you the dominance of Rangers and how a lot of Rangers fans would have thought they got to put this one to bed. I know that over and above that, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has mentioned that if VAR again was in operation, then Rangers would have had 3 points. One of them I thought was offside. Of Morelos' goals. The second one, I am personally of the opinion that we've got to get, if VAR's coming in, we've got to get it to benefit the striker. we're talking, a toe, a foot, and Morelos is adjudged to be offside. For me, there needs to be a clear distinction, some kind of space. We want to see goals, and I thought Morelos is very unlucky to have that one chalked off. It was so tight. I would have given him the benefit of the doubt.
I thought it was borderline. I would agree. I think the first one was offside. I think the second one is a borderline call. I think it's maybe just where his positioning is and where the assistant linesman is that I think he may look marginally off, but I thought when you see it back, and it could have gone either way. I think it really could have went either way, and I think sometimes even with VAR, I think it could still be a 50-50 call, but like you, I think you benefit the attacking play and you benefit the striker.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, by the way, because, listen, Ruffy, you only have to look at what's happening in the English Premier League. There are some VAR decisions that leave you absolutely gobsmacked, even VAR, and you're thinking, no, I'm sorry, you've got that wrong. So it's not, again, we always emphasise, it is not going to eliminate every mistake. It's a percentage game of reducing some of the biggies.
Yeah, it is, in the last couple of years we've been saying, why don't the referees come out and explain themselves after it? Is it when VAR comes in, are we going to be asking them to come out and explain yourself with some of the decisions that they're making?
In the west of Scotland, yes, there'll be a full investigation into their family heritage, who they supported, if their great-grandfather travelled over from the north or the south of Ireland. That's the way this nutcase area operates.
Well, it's going to be an exciting year then.
Can I be any more succinct?
You've hit it in the net. In the head.
Absolutely. Okay, as far, just one thing, and I've got to mention this, because I think I'd get it in the neck if I didn't. Well played, Motherwell, because you've got two good goals. One of them, the first goal, I mean, the speed down the flank, the pace. Yeah. He left the defenders, never mind everybody moaning about Alan McGregor, left the defenders for dead. The cross is in there, bang, it's a simple tap in. And then, okay, the second one, it's in his near post where he gets beaten. It's probably, you're not the best person to talk to because you were beating your near post against Iran. But nevertheless.
He only mentions it once a week.
I know, absolutely. Liam Kelly was great.
Oh, some of the saves. I think it was 2 in the first half. There was one of them, he must have been unsighted to the last minute, and how he got across, I don't know. But apart from, he's been like that all year. Rangers were sort of sniffing about him when his contract was.
I think he was at Rangers to start with as a youngster.
It's probably a young boy, But no, and he doesn't look a big guy. He doesn't look like the presence, Seagrass or them. He looks relatively small, but he makes the saves, and that was the inspiration for Motherwell in the second half. When you've got a goalkeeper like that going, he's not going to get beat again. Yeah, we're just going to batter away, and the pace of that boy was fantastic. Yeah,
well done. I like Woolery. I think he's got something about him, and of course Roberts, they got him eventually from Hearts, and when you've got wingers and you've got supply and you get the right kind of supply, you can score goals, and they did that. So we'll read out as many of the points on Celtic and Rangers. I think a lot of very, very good points coming in on our message board, basically about the fact that, listen, anybody that thinks that Celtic and Rangers are not going to drop any points all the way to the end of the season, other than Old Firm games, they're wrong, because you're doing a disservice to the other teams, Alison.
Well, you only have to look at the evidence of the season so far. They've both dropped ample points all the way along. We mentioned it there. Celtic dropped points to St Mirren, they've dropped points to Livingston, they've dropped points to Dundee United, teams that you would be expecting them to beat, particularly at home. So I don't think it's a given at all, and I think particularly as you get to this stage of the campaign, when it's as tight at the top, there's definitely an element of psychology too that comes into play, and a panic. I think the longer the game goes, when you're not winning, you feel the anxiety of the crowd getting on your back. You can feel the pressure to maybe just throw things at it, to maybe lose your composure a wee bit. So no, I wouldn't take it as a given for the last 10 games. It's an automatic chalking everyone off until the two teams meet again. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to speak to Andrew Shiney in a couple of moments. I just want to get this one here, which is, I think it was, you guys from Partick Thistle. Did you donate some of your money from the weekend game to a charity, Ruffy?
I think some supporters donated. I'm trying to think, the society, Rape Society, something like that. I think there was 4 or 5 groups of supporters donated to
Yeah.
a society.
Well, well done to James Dock, who says, well done to Ruffy and Thistle Board for footing the bill for the Jags fans at Starks Park, and the money was donated to a certain charity, so well done. It was nice of him to mention it. Thanks, James, for that mention for Ruffy. Okay, to Pittodrie, I'd love to have been there. I don't know about you, Ruffy, just seeing Fergie walk out there again would have been magic. I love the statue. And I think they actually presented him with a small replica of it as well, which I'm sure will take pride of place in that, you know, the cabinet that he must have with every award that you can think of.
And I'm sure he'd have enjoyed the whole day. I'm sure he'd have enjoyed meeting the players from the Gothenburg era. I saw him with Dougie Bell and wee Gordon Strachan and all the boys that were there. That must have been fantastic to meet up. And it's great to see that stadium full, 18,000 people in it, you know. It is a great stadium. I know it's getting a wee bit dated, but when there's 18,000 in it, there's a great atmosphere. And they just couldn't get the win. You know, they had the chances to get the win, there's no doubt about that. But I'm sure he would have enjoyed the whole weekend.
Yeah, it certainly was one of those trips down memory lane, wallowing in the nostalgia, and rightly so. I think even Sir Alex Ferguson, I read a great quote, just basically saying, you know, okay, lots of people look at what he achieved at Manchester United, but the 8 years at Aberdeen are absolutely, you know, well worthy of mentioning, because that was a phenomenal achievement, and I think Fergie himself views that as probably, you know, something that deserves even more credit than what he achieved at Manchester United. So we'll get Andrew Shiney's thoughts on that in a moment. The game itself finished 1-1. There was a penalty which I don't think, you know, Dundee United scored from it, but I don't think the awarding of it, David Bates was penalised for a tug on the jersey. I don't think Jim Goodwin was too happy at that penalty award.
It was a slight tug on the jersey, but I think we need to be really careful how we're going to award penalties, because the amount of jostling that goes on prior to any set play coming in the box, whether it's corner or free kick, you know, they're pulling and dragging into each other all the time. I would understand if the Dundee United striker was going toward goal and was about to score, but he was, you know, drifting out of the box, away from goal. So it's a poor decision from my defender, no getting away from that, but it's a very, very soft penalty.
Yeah, a soft penalty, and I'll tell you right now, Jim Goodwin is a player. If you'd booked him for a tug in the shirt, he'd be like that to the ref. Look, hang on till I get him a right good bang. You know, hit him a dull one. Andrew, what was your assessment of the Dons? They would have loved to have won with Fergie in the stand, surely, eh?
Absolutely. I mean, that was all that was missing from the weekend, really, wasn't it, Peter? Everybody was expecting, you know, Lewis Ferguson to pop up in Fergie time to grab a winner, but it wasn't to be. But there were a lot of positive signs from Aberdeen. When you looked at the starting 11, I tell you, I was worried going into the game, because you're trying to see where are players going to fit in. Conor McLennan having to play right back. You're missing McCrory, Ramsey, Hayes, Scott Brown. You know, half a team's out, but the boys that did play rolled their sleeves up, and after that sticky start that Jim Goodwin mentioned there, I thought David Bates was daft, because Ian Hart's was running out of the box. You don't have to tug the shirt. It was a penalty. It gave United the perfect start, but fair play to Aberdeen. They got back. Matty Kennedy's claiming the goal, but I think it is a Ryan Edwards' own goal. But after that, Aberdeen created all the chances, but they just couldn't put them away.
Yeah, and they'd some gilt-edged ones, Andrew, in front of goal as well. Just a better touch, albeit that, you know, I was going to mention the pitch, but because Ruffy and I are of an era when really good players can, really good, I always remember Davy Province saying to me, really good players can play on any pitch. And I just shut my mouth. The lesson was learned as he booted me out into left field. So on that basis, Andrew, I'm having none of it. Two absolute sitters in front of goal. Ramirez, I thought he should have burst the net.
Absolutely. You'd have put your house on Christian Ramirez scoring. I mean, when you look at it, it's a really clever run by Ramirez, because he goes forward and then stops, and he points to Funso Ojo as to where he wants the ball. Ojo places it exactly where he wanted it, and then it was just a lack of composure, I thought. He was trying to burst the net instead of making sure that he hit the target. Vicente Bissawin, equally culpable later on in the half, and then there was a couple of chances for Teddy Jenks and Lewis Ferguson that maybe, you know, they were more difficult chances, but there were still opportunities that should have been taken. But you know, I said last week I thought Aberdeen needed 14 points from 6 games. We've now got to take 13 points from 5 games if they're to be sure of getting into the top 6, I think. Although it's still dog-eat-dog in there. Aberdeen are still only 3 points off 4th place, which is bizarre when you look at a run of no wins in the last 8 games. But Wednesday night at Tynecastle and then Saturday at Ibrox are going to be massive, massive games for Aberdeen.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay with us. I want to ask you about that in a moment, Andrew. But of course, Tam Courts wants to talk about the positives from United. They got that early lead. I don't think the United manager was too happy that they weren't able to build on that.
Which I probably expected us to really go and kind of press home that advantage. But from there on in, we didn't really kind of capitalise on that. We were quite bitty and we didn't really capitalise on any real retention at the pitch, which affected our momentum, affected our control. And then when Aberdeen got back into the game, it probably descended into something that we didn't want it to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. United didn't really get the result they were looking for either. You mentioned there, Andrew, about going to Tynecastle on Wednesday. I certainly think that while everybody was maybe wondering what Stephen Glass was going to offer, I really do rate Jim Goodwin as a coach, and I think it's time some of them displayed what Jim Goodwin's all about. If they go to Tynecastle and get the bit between their teeth and start a wee fight here and there and get right in about this Hearts side, then it could be a real rip snorter of a game, Andrew. They need to show a bit of what Jim Goodwin was all about.
Absolutely, but Stephen Glass beat Hearts at Pittodrie and got a draw down at Tynecastle. And we went to Ibrox and got a draw under Stephen Glass and drew at Pittodrie. So it's not all doom and gloom going into these games, but you're absolutely right. I think they've got to be very solid defensively, but they've got to fight their corner. That's what you've got to do against Hearts. You know what they're going to be like. They're going to be physical. They'll be in your faces. Aberdeen have got to match that. And then hopefully a wee bit of quality, maybe from Bizawin, who's starting to come onto a game, Matty Kennedy, who's back from injury and looks as though he's getting towards the player that we all know is in there. It could be an interesting one down at Tynecastle, but it's going to be a battle, no question.
Yeah, and just before you go, Andrew, please tell me you were one of the 16,000 who managed to get a selfie with Fergie. Did you get near him?
I didn't get near him at all, to be honest, Peter. I was there on Friday for the unveiling of the statue, which was a hugely emotional occasion. It was great to see guys like Ruffy, your old pal from 1978, Argentina, Bobby Clark was there, looking much, much younger than he's 75 years. There was Stuart Kennedy, who apparently barely gave Fergie a chance to speak to anybody else. Kennedy was too busy telling Fergie about, I was the best fullback in the world when I played for you. But it was great to see Fergie there because, he's had a rough time of it with his health over the past few years, but he looked very sprightly, he spoke well, and, there were a lot of people went along to Pittodrie that hadn't been there for a long time just because of the allure of that guy. And you were right, Peter, when you said about Fergie reckons that the achievements that he had at Aberdeen almost put what he did at Manchester United into the shade, because Manchester United was a huge club, still is. Aberdeen was a provincial club and still is. But in one season, they managed to beat Bayern Munich and Real Madrid to win a European trophy. It's not bad.
Ah, brilliant. Listen, I could not think of a better way to finish off a conversation with you, Andrew, with that brilliant line you said. It's nae bad, and that's an understatement. Fergie, Bobby Clark there.
All the way.
I love that line from Andrew. Stuart Kennedy just man-marked Fergie to tell him I was the best fullback you ever had.
And Stuart Kennedy wouldn't be short in telling them that as well. Not Stuart Kennedy. Yeah, he told everybody how good he was. But Bobby Clark coming all the way from America. I think Bobby's got I don't know, Andrew might tell us that, Bobby's got a big input in the American players, because obviously Bobby's over there and he deals with all the college football and keeping an eye on players that are coming through. So I think he's going to be a big asset to Aberdeen in the future.
Yeah, never mind Bobby Clark, Andrew. I really do hope that Jim Goodwin gets down into the west of Scotland, steals a few talented players. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I think so. He spent an hour with Fergie on Saturday morning. He forewent the opportunity to have breakfast with his wife and kids because he got the summons from Fergie, come along to my hotel, we'll have a coffee. So he had an hour chatting with him, getting lots of information. By the way, Bobby Clark, Ruffy, has now retired and lives up in Lossiemouth and plays golf virtually every day on the great golf courses up there. But he's still got that knowledge of American players that Aberdeen will tap into, I'm quite sure. But I think Jim Goodwin will certainly have his eye on a few people down the southwest of Scotland because he knows he's going to have to strengthen that squad for next season. The numbers don't lie. 7 wins in their last 31 games. That's not acceptable for an Aberdeen side.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Andrew. I love talking to you on a Monday. It's always good to get an insight from the northeast because it's great, Ruffy. Because when Andrew was up in the northeast alley and I was a reporter for Radio 4th, and you were actually working on anything from the west of Scotland, it was very difficult to get your voice heard. Andrew would be battling for Aberdeen, I'd be battling for Hearts, Hibs, Dunfermline, Wraith Rovers, and in the west, most of the journalists and pundits would go, yes, but what does that mean for Celtic and Rangers? You know what it is? That's why I love having Andrew on, Ruffy.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the smile on his face now, look, compared to a month ago. No, we were worried about him.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was worried about him. I didn't think he was going to ever get to one of our staff parties. Andrew, brilliant to chat to you. Always good to hear what you've got to say. Top man, got his finger on the pulse in the North East. Great. Andrew Shiney talking about Aberdeen. Thanks to so many people talking about the fact that Rangers and Celtic are going to drop points. No surprise there because this one is going to go right down to the wire. And obviously, Hugh Scott's just said there, what about Jim Goodwin going back and maybe Jamie McGrath? Now he's at Aberdeen. You never know. These are I think it's a Jamie McGrath. It's that type of player, Ali, that they want up there.
I would absolutely think that, and I think that goes for all managers. Sometimes when you go to a new club and you've worked with players at your former club, you know what they bring, you know the style of play that you want to introduce, and you know that there's maybe a seamless link that you can bring in. I think your former club is always susceptible to a raid like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of people talking about, there's been a bit of, when people get great results, Rangers get a fabulous result, home and away, I thought, against Borussia Dortmund. But Andrew just actually, just touches your memory banks and say, this is an Aberdeen side that beat Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, along the way to winning that Cup Winners' Cup, which is fantastic. We've had some great results down through the years. Let's not forget Dundee United spanked a good few with a good European pedigree, as well as what Celtic have achieved over the years too. So we always like to celebrate. And on this day, and I think it might have been yesterday or possibly today, it was all those years ago. Look at Ruffy looking and thinking, am I going to leather him? I'm not. On this day, Ian Ferguson, who came from the village that I was brought up in, scored an absolute raker for Hearts to beat Bayern Munich.
At Tynecastle, free kick just outside the box, about 25 yards. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And quite rightly, he still talks about it, as you would. But it was a wonderful strike.
Although, can I just say something to Ruffy? I know you're thinking it's Ian Ferguson just chatting about it as if it was one and only strike. Ian Ferguson had a record of about maybe 25, 30 thunderbolts for Dundee United, for Hearts, for Motherwell. He was a great player, Ian Ferguson.
He was.
Not the Ian Ferguson that obviously moved from Paisley to Rangers, but he was a good player, Ian Ferguson, really good. And boy, he could hit a ball. Elsewhere, Hearts have announced that Andy Halliday has signed a 2-year extension to his contract. I think Robbie Nielsen well happy to get him.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to get Andy extending his contract. He's more of a utility player for us, but a very, very good one. It's difficult to get guys of that calibre that can cover in so many positions. I had a good chat with Andy about how we see him going forward, and I think you can see from the game on even Saturday where he came on at right back for us, but he can cover left back, centre mid, left centre half, left midfield. So pleased because he brings a depth of experience as well, and having played at the top level.
Yeah, we've had Andy on the show. He's a good lad. And again, a utility player, which...
I was going to say that.
That's crucial,
I was going to say that. There's
Yeah.
not many clubs have got that quality of player where he's been with Rangers and everything. You know, and you're right, he can fill in most positions in there, and that's what he has done. And that's obviously why he's got another 2 years.
I don't think there's any argument over Hearts winning at the weekend. They had a man advantage. Connor Ronan, I thought it was a leg breaker of a challenge. You know, as soon as he put his studs in there, I'm thinking he has to go. I don't think there was any argument from anyone about the red card.
It's funny though, I was at the game and I think everyone was stunned when the red card came out. I think at the time, I think it looks, when you see it back, you can see why it was given.
Yeah.
At the time, I think everyone expected it to be a yellow card. I think you could hear an audible gasp when the red went up. No one had anticipated it.
Yeah.
And again, that's at first view, and when you see it back, I can see why it was given. But
You know,
I thought
the press
Hearts,
boxes, your press box is entirely St Mirren fans. No, I mean round it, it's all St Mirren fans.
In terms of the ground itself and its location, but I think it did look fairly innocuous.
Yeah.
On first view, and certainly for me, I didn't expect to see a red card at all.
Were Hearts worthy of their win?
Yes, I thought even before the red card, I thought Hearts were pretty much on top. You could see why St Mirren were aggrieved at times. I thought the second goal might not have stood on another day because of he felt as though Jack Annick had been impeded in the build-up to it, that he'd had the ball in his hands and it'd been kicked out. But I thought Hearts were pretty much well worthy of the 3 points.
I thought Saints had a good call for a penalty.
There were two calls
Barge.
for penalties, one in each half that they had a call. I thought on another day, again, it's one of those that may have been given. Bring in VAR, it might come into play.
Well, it might come into play if the VAR guy is a St Mirren VAR guy or a Hearts VAR guy.
If you get a chance to watch Jack Annick again at that instance, he did get caught, but being down there and being
a wide goalkeeper. He has a wee look,
the ball's still active.
Right.
So you sort of have a look up to see
I
where
think,
it is.
I've been shot. I know.
I think our first impressions in live time was that he'd taken a kick to the head.
Yeah.
That was the initial impression. But then when he got up, obviously, and played on.
Absolutely. Is Barry Mackay good enough for a Scotland call-up? I know some people have been murmuring that in the papers.
I think over the course of this season, he should definitely be in consideration for it. I didn't see much at the weekend. I thought he was okay. I didn't see a huge amount, but I think when you consider his contribution this season, I think he's probably been one of Hearts' best players.
Yeah, good player, like him. Dundee 0, Livingston 4. Ruffy. I thought Dundee might be stirring under Mark McGee. Absolutely battered.
No, the first half they were a mess, and the analysis after it, watching all the goals, I'm sure the players will be in the dressing room the next day looking at the video and they'll be shaking their head as well. I mean, the one where the two of them just walked away and let them take the free kick, and it was so simple, but that's what happens when you're down there. The confidence goes, and when you go 3-0 down, there's no way back.
They're getting it on the neck right now, because if you look at it, when they had... let's look at Dundee. Dundee have had a bonus disagreement with the players. They haven't conducted themselves well, so that destabilised the manager. No matter what people say, players look at it and think, you're not going to pay us certain, bonuses that we should have had agreed way before we kicked a ball. That destabilised them. Then, of course, you've got the uncertainty over James McPake. Then he wins 2 games. They bullet him, bring in someone that nobody, I think, had any money on at the bookies, that Mark McGee was going to come in, and suddenly you're in a situation where that's probably one of their poorest performances of the season.
Listen, I think when you're midway through your first half and the fans are leaving, they're already making their way to the exit, I think you've got a problem. I think it was quite an unpopular appointment at the time, and I think he needs an immediate return. I think if he doesn't get it, I think they're badly in trouble. But I think that was a shocker of a result. When that came through on Saturday and you see it's 3-0 after 24 minutes or something like that, you're thinking, my gosh, it's a long way down. And their only salvation really at the weekend was the fact that Ross County beat St Johnstone, that the two of them are still very much in the mire. But I think if one of them is cast adrift, I think you would fear for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, good vibes up at Dingwall. What a good result. You listen, Regan Charles-Cook, Hungbo, two players that really have excelled. They're talking about Regan Charles-Cook should be in the running for Player of the Year.
Yeah, I would say so at the moment. Yeah. You know, if you look at the goal scorers in the Premiership, it's absolutely amazing. You've got a Ross County player top of the goal scoring, and I don't think there's a Celtic player in the top 5 goal scorer in the Premiership, you know, so all credit to him, you know, to be playing in a team like Ross County and have scored that many goals. But he's exciting to watch. Every supporter wants a player like that who's exciting and can do something special, and he's been magnificent. I honestly don't think they'll be able to hold on to him. There'll be clubs watching him just now.
Well, he's out of contract, isn't he? I think he's out of contract at the end of the season.
He'll be snapped up. By the way, the Staggies 7 points clear of the bottom 2. Another thing about it is sometimes you think a club's going to get dragged into it if you look at them and the way they're playing and you think, no, they haven't got the players. I've seen them on more than a few occasions. I said to you, Ruffy, they wouldn't be involved in it because they're good players and they play good football. Yeah,
I would agree. I saw them shortly after the resumption of the campaign after the winter break, and they lost to Tannadice, but I thought they'd performed fairly well. They lost to a late goal and I thought they were unlucky to come away with nothing. And my own reflections that night were that they had enough about them to stay up, and I think it's been fairly consistent. If you look at their form since the turn of the year, they've picked up points, they've got a bit of breathing space now, and I think sometimes at the bottom end, I think that can be the important thing when you don't have the anxiety and the pressure of being where St Johnstone and Dundee are at the minute. It just gives you that cushion that maybe relaxes you that little bit getting into games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done to Ross County. Here's a look at the table. Here's how it all has panned out in the Scottish Premiership. So Celtic still with that 3-point advantage. I think Rangers will be kicking themselves. What a chance to reduce that gap to only 1 point. Hearts tucked in on their own in third, and doesn't look as if anybody's going to be catching them, even although that was a really good result for Hibs at the weekend. Bottom end, Dundee have a game in hand in St Johnstone, maybe a chance to overtake them at some point, but they need to actually produce, as Alison mentioned there, in Ross County with that 7-point advantage over St Johnstone. I think that's a good cushion once they get into playing each other in the split. Okay, how's it faring in the Predictor? Well, we predicted, Ruffy. Honestly, we used all our experience to say, calm your jets, Alison. This kind of a, condescending look and your arrogance, you were strutting your stuff.
Condescending look just comes naturally.
If she had peacock flowers, they'd have been out all the time. The feathers would have been there, But suddenly, it's all
plucked.
Yeah.
How many games are there still to go?
How many points did you get at the weekend?
No, God.
She was like great. She was like the UK at the Eurovision Song Contest. Here's the Predictor scores now. Nil point for Alison. She's trailing at the moment, Ruffy. Although I have to say, 4 points is nothing in this game. And I'm going to say neither is 10 points because I'm 10 points behind you, Ali. And then, of course, it's Tam McManus, Hugh McDonald and Tam looking well out of it at the bottom end of it, but I don't think he's giving two hoots about it. But nevertheless, we're going to have a trophy for the winner, Ruffy, so it would be nice for someone to pick it up. Yeah. And remember as well, Alison, the great thing about it is somebody's going to get a 21-pointer. I managed to get a 21 points one day. You had 19.
I think 17 is my best return, but see, I've done that fairly consistently.
Yeah,
you don't need the 21 points if you're doing it.
Absolutely, and I always say I say to so many people, Alison, this is a great thing. I used to say it when I play fives or 11-a-sides. Remember, in competition, nobody remembers runners-up. So just remember that.
Listen, I'm just delighted that the food critic is at the bottom.
Absolutely. Tam there, and he'll have to buy us all a meal. What about the Premier League in England? Here are the results from the weekend. Of course, Southampton with a 2-0 win over Norwich. At the bottom end, Tottenham hammered Leeds United. That cost Bielsa his job. It was lovely to see Christian Eriksen back for Brentford. What a reception he received when he went onto the park. But Newcastle were too good for them, got the 2-0 win. Aston Villa 2-0 against Brighton, another good win for Steven Gerrard's side. Crystal Palace and Burnley, you couldn't separate them. Manchester United and Watford, I don't think Tommy Docherty would have drawn the curtains to watch those two play. And Man City, boy, they were lucky. Everton battled away for Frank Lampard, and I think he was well unhappy with VAR in that game. That's the point I was making, Ruffy. And there's West Ham beating Wolves by a goal to nil. Davy Moyes still doing well there.
Champions League.
Absolutely. It's a stonewall certainty, much to the annoyance of Tam Cowan. What about the Carabao Cup final? Have you ever seen anything like it, Alison? Everybody scoring penalties. I mean, some of the times I thought the keeper didn't even make an effort. They were so well placed.
The penalties were extraordinary, and it becomes a real test of nerve too, the longer that goes on and goes into sudden death. But to have replaced your goalkeeper for the shootout, and then
he's having a great game. The saves, the 2 saves he made, Mendy, were world class.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what managers thinking.
What would you?
I think it's too complicated. They make things too. I know in training, no, he might look as if he saves penalties better than.
Give me your mindset though, Ruffy. Who was your understudy at Thistle?
There was a few.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll be better than that.
Billy
It's a
Thompson.
penalty shootout, right? You're playing for Celtic. It's 88, 89.
And I can take no.
And Billy McNeil says, by the way, Ian Andrews is coming on.
The whole place for a win. There was screams for the top tier.
Brilliant.
No, I get the point if the goalkeeper is exceptional in saving penalties, but if it comes to the bit that he's got to take one, then that's a different thing altogether.
Did you ever have to take one?
Never. I would never ever stepped forward to take one. Never.
No.
You got to feel confident. You got to have.
You had a good
be able to
left peg on
yeah,
you.
but
You could play outside as well.
Yeah, I could play outside, but I would never. I've never ever taken penalties. So why all of a sudden would I take a penalty?
Well, amazingly, Kepa Arrizabalaga wasn't to blame, according to the Chelsea manager Thomas Tuchel.
Everybody knows how good he is, how difficult it is to shoot. So he plays this plays a huge part in how good we shot today. And unfortunately, could not save. The penalties were brilliantly taken. And yeah, it was a bit harsh on him today that he was the guy to miss the one and only penalty. But there's no blame.
I'm not quite sure of the guy who filmed that for us, but Thomas Tuchel looked a bit like Max Headroom from the 80s there, wasn't he? When he started moving in the difficult frame. But I think the general feeling is that, they'd missed some sitters. I mean, Mason Mount had an absolute belter of a chance to win it, and he didn't take it. Of course, the one little downside to all of this, Ruffy, and I think it's a bit of a PR spin on it, Roman Abramovich has stepped back from the stewardship of Chelsea. I think he's trying to play the political game here, take Chelsea out of the firing line and hope it all blows over and he's welcome back at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he's a businessman, isn't he? He's going to stay out of everything altogether and left, I think he left one of the foundation people in charge. I mean, the people that are on the foundation have no knowledge of running a football club like Chelsea. So yeah, there's obviously been a lot of discussions going on behind the scenes, and that's the wise thing to do, is just step out.
Yeah, okay. We'll wait and see. A couple of little things before we hear from Greg McEwen. Greg's the commercial director at Hibs. It's such a feel-good story on Hibs giving the fans a chance to go to the game against St Johnstone for a fiver. News and that coming up with Greg shortly, but a couple of wee things I want to get your thoughts on. I don't know if you've seen the video doing the rounds on social media, but I've never seen the referee decide that he's taken that much abuse that he's head-butted a fan. I mean, Ali, the whole thing's moved on, hasn't it?
It's, I don't know where it was from, to be fair, but I saw
it was Stanley Athletic against Port Glasgow United.
Oh no. So.
Yeah, when the official lunged at the spectator in Renfrew. Now, remember, Tam Cowan and I hosted an event in the Port Glasgow Hall, and Table 7 started fighting with Table 8. There was a full scaler alley, and Tam and I looked at each other, and Tam decided to start singing Neil Sedaka's Hungry Years while the whole place had kicked off. So this is just the referee head-butting a player's the norm.
It's extraordinary. It's just... I think you don't expect it till the last second either, when you just see that he goes for it.
And he went for it as well. As a belter, wasn't it, Ruffy?
We have to wait and see if he appeals it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. There'll be no VAR in this one. It was definitely a headbutt. Another little story that caught my eye was Aiden McGeady set to be offloaded from Sunderland in the summer. Obviously, they want to try and get the guys who are on a high wage, but he's 35. Might not be. I think somebody who was looking, if Aiden McGeady wanted to come home, boy, he would be a good signing for a club who would look and say, look, why don't we give you a year or a 2-year deal on pennies, because he's made his money, he's a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, and I think he still has a house in Glasgow. I think he was still in Glasgow, but a few interesting remarks too when he was saying that he'd regretted not having the opportunity to go back to Celtic at one point in his career.
Yeah.
There still might be a chance then for him to go and finish off there. I'm not sure if he would really fit in it with Celtic's transfer policy and how they do business, but I think it obviously comes down to finances, but he could be a fairly good utility player to have.
Well, I'll tell you who would be great for Ruffy. Which club have I got in my head right now that I think Aiden McGeady would be a good signing for a year at least?
Well, I would probably go Hibs.
There you are. Hibs. Sean Maloney. Aye, Aiden. Any chance of coming up, we'll give you a couple of grand. Here you go. Bish bash bosh. Get out there and strut your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have lost track of the form that he's in, and how fit he is and everything. He seems a fit boy. And the two guys we've had on the show said that if there's one player they would not want to face would be Aiden McGeady. So he still must have something.
Oh, he's still got skill, Ali. I mean,
he was always a very skillful player, a very clever player with the ball at his feet and able to just keep hold of it. Yeah, just
quite shy as well. Okay, let's move on. Aiden, I'd love to see him back in Scottish football. Who knows? Maybe Sean will give him the call. Maybe somebody else will sneak in. Talent. We always like to see it in Scottish football. Thanks to so many of you who've posted messages. There's Celtic and Rangers fans going absolutely ballistic on here. Obviously, as you can imagine, if one drops points, another gets the win. They're all going lording it up. But today it's been. I think most of the messages here have been people at a loss, trying to look forward now and think, well, these are just blips. But there's been a few blips along the road to this title, and there's going to be a few more twists and turns along the way. But who's going to come out on top? And what about the bottom end? Oof, Charlie's in trouble. He won't be here on Wednesday. I think he'll be playing, to be perfectly honest with you. But you can join us on the Football Show. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. You get all the notifications. We've got Pat and Evan, a 1-to-1 coming out on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel this week as well. So there's lots for you to view on the channel, and of course we'll be out at those matches. And looking ahead to the midweek card, there's a full card in the Scottish Premiership. We're going to finish on a great bit of news for Hibernian, because they put out an initiative that basically gave some of the fans a chance to snap up some tickets for a rather cheap price. Earlier today I caught up with the commercial director Greg McEwen. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Hibernian Football Club's Commercial Director, Greg McEwen. Greg, thank you first and foremost for joining us. Not many people will know that if I had to tell you 28 years ago when we were working at STV, you'd be a director and I'd have my own TV channel, eh? Nobody would have believed it.
No, I don't think so.
Listen, we're delighted that you're here and we've got lots to talk about. Of course, you're doing a great job at Hibs. But there's a match coming up that I think everybody at Hibs is getting a positive response. Tell us a bit about the match at home to St Johnstone.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. This weekend for the St Johnstone game, we are running the initiative of Football for a Fiver. So every seat in the stadium, including the away end, is £5. And actually the breaking news is it's sold out. So we have now launched ticket exchange for season ticket holders to free up their seats if they're not attending, so that we can try and resell those as well.
I mean, it's a fabulous initiative, and I think what's the reasoning behind it, Greg? Why did you think, okay, let's give the fans a chance to come for a fiver? What was the motivation?
Everybody's been through tough times, Peter. The pandemic alone has been very tough for everybody. Now that we're coming out the back end of the pandemic, there's the increase in living costs, the energy bills going up. So we're very much at the community, and it's an opportunity to bring fans along that haven't been here before, making it affordable. So hopefully a sellout crowd can come and enjoy it.
Yeah, full marks to the High Bees for that. How receptive have the season ticket holders been to this? Because obviously, from their point of view, they'll be looking and thinking, okay, this is an incentive to get people in, but we've already put our money where our mouth is.
Season ticket holders are our bread and butter. They are the most important group to this club, and we will always protect that. So this is a one-off game, and I think that they all know that it doesn't affect the value that they have in their season ticket. It's also quite nice that it's a St Johnstone game that we're doing it, because they're the cheapest away ticket for our fans. So it's a way to say thanks to them as well.
Yeah, full marks to you. Listen, I've been at Easter Road on more than a few occasions this season. It's all starting to look good. You've got the big projector screens there. There's lots of sponsors around, really embracing, I think, Ron's vision for Hibernian. Do you get that sense that more and more people in the community and sponsors want to get involved with your vision?
I've been here for just over 2 years now, and it's been a phenomenal journey. Very, very challenging through the pandemic. But I think the fans can see the changes that we're bringing, and the opportunities that are coming, the excitement that is coming, and the businesses are absolutely on that journey with us. We keep saying that it's about partnerships, and we all need to grow together. And that is absolutely what we're all about here. And businesses buy into that same vision, and that's why it's working so well.
Yeah, and the good thing is there's a lot of real positivity around the manager you have. I've got a lot of time for Sean. I think he's a sharp cookie. He's one of those guys who thinks long and hard about the game. I think he's going to be a great coach for you. The fans slowly but surely seem to be buying in to what he's doing, especially with that result at the weekend.
Yeah, like Sean, I've known Sean a long time myself, and he's a great appointment for the club. And especially in my position, he's a guy that is a modern day manager that gets the commercial benefits as well, so it makes my job easier. But it's been great the last few weeks, the results that we've got, and a couple of massive games coming up now. And I'm sure that the way that we're going, Sean will be here for a long time and be a good success.
Yeah, Greg, as ever, it's always good to have a wee chat with you. I wish you every success in the future at Hibs as commercial director. I know you're going to be a success, and I hope the club goes from strength to strength. Good luck with the initiative against St Johnstone. Great to hear that it's a sellout. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me, Peter.
Yeah, brilliant. I just pushed the two of these guys out and then just brought them back in again for that interview. But great to see Greg. I worked with him so many years ago, Ruffy. I feel so old now just seeing my old mate there. Brilliant lad, doing a great job at Hibs. And what a feel-good story that is. Fiver, sell-out, St Johnstone at Easter Road. Brilliant.
Yeah, you've got to, I think clubs now have got to, through the last 2 years, I think clubs have actively now got to be seen giving something back to the supporters, because a lot of the supporters have all gave money to the clubs through all the time to keep them going. So no, it's good to see that a club is handing it back, and I'm sure there'll be a massive crowd that night.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, Ali, you know, a lot of clubs are doing what they can for the fans, but I think Motherwell excelled themselves at the start of the season, and that's a great initiative from Hibs. And also, I think you've got to mention that the hit that season ticket holders take and say, okay, look, it's a one-off, it's a big thank you to everybody, you know, and season ticket holders go, yeah, great, let's get it on, let's get more people into the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Motherwell's gesture was exceptional. I think more should have followed. I think when you look at families who were maybe paying out still for 2 and 3, 4 season ticket books last year and weren't having access to games and were basically watching it round a laptop and parting with considerable sums, I think the clubs do owe something back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been one of those programmes today. It's not often that you have a football show where Rangers and Celtic slip up. And of course, as we continue following this race all the way to the title, will there be more slip-ups ahead? You can give us your view. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. The good news is if you like your football, if you download the PLZ Soccer app, you can get all the breaking stories in Scottish football on the app, and of course English football, European and world football as well. And the great news about the app itself is you can actually watch the programme live. It is actually live right now on the PLZ Soccer app. You can download it in Google Play and in the App Store as well. It's well worth it if you want to watch it on the go and you don't want to miss it. If you do miss it, you can watch the show later on in the app as well. We've got it all covered, Ruffy, haven't we, for the new...
Certainly have.
Yeah.
That's too many. That's too much for me now. It's getting I get the TV one and I get the live one. You have to show me how to do that, man.
Yeah, I will do that, but I don't think we can get the reception on your Nokia 3210. But nevertheless, still good that Ruffy's trying to keep up with it. Thanks to Alison McConnell. Thanks to Alan Ruff. Join us tomorrow on the programme if you can. The old stager himself, the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Scottish journalism, Hugh MacDonald, will be with Ruffy and myself. We're on at 4 o'clock. Hit the subscribe button and join us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.